Road. Okay, got the recording going. Again, welcome. Happy Friday. I'm Andrea Beam, and I will be starting with the payroll first today. We did not have a whole lot on the payroll side of things, so we shouldn't take long. And then I will hand it over to Amanda for the USAS side. Okay. So for the payroll, we had a few releases. We had 3 regular and 2 hot fixes. So we'll be going over those. The first thing is we had some new features added. Um, Again, this is still a work in progress. So the new one is what they worked on was the mini orange security. And if you click on this here, you will see it will take you to this page here. And this is just a new way to log in for security purpose using the mini orange login. Again, that would be like if you were logging into your URLs here. So I don't have a mini orange, but again, if you were using a mini orange, it would have the mini orange down here to log in. I do have a screenshot I can show you what that shows here. If I can find it. Probably not. Oh, here it is. Okay, found it. So what I was talking about would be this right here. Move my screen over, the mini orange login. So if your districts use that sign in with mini orange, this is what they had worked on, and now you can use that to sign in for if you're with security purposes. So that was what that was, and I believe that was for all USAS and for all the different packages. So I will log back into my normal way here. Okay. So then the next one is improvements. We have now when you go to the employee dashboard, we included the employee distribution and the lead projection. So when they run payroll and it's underneath their payments highlighter view. So I will show you that here. See if hopefully this person has a payment. Yep. So if you click on that in the highlight view and you open that up, you're going to see the employer distribution and lead projection. And I think that's by default now, so that will automatically show. Now, if you don't want that, you can go here to these 3 little lines here and you can unclick and uncheck those, and then they won't show in there, and you can bring in other header fields that you want to see in your pay accounts charged. So again, remember, this is a very useful option here that you can use to go directly for a payment. If you need to see how something was ran during the payroll, this would show you right here in this payment pay accounts history. And they have all these other options too that you can include. So that is a new feature we have, or improvement. The next one was the timesheets. I believe this is on the ESS, and I believe I'm not sure if Michelle will be going over that stuff more, but we did have one that kind of coincides with payroll side. The calculate overtime rate, they were having issues with that, with the rounding. It was not matching what our USPS side was. So now they have that matching with the timesheets for overtime. So now it calculates correctly, and it's using the 1.5 times the unit amount. And again, what it's using is on our side of things is under configuration. And if you go to the rounding, and it uses the unit amount decimal position. So what you have here is what it's going to round to. So again, if your districts are questioning that, have them look here. And again, they can have 1, 2, or 3. So it all depends on what they have entered there, what it will round to. Okay. The next thing is the set default for direct deposit on email direct deposit no dialogue. So now if districts want if they have a custom direct deposit and they want that to be considered for their email notices also. So they can go to their configurations, go to email direct deposit notice, and now they have this option default direct deposit form. Now they can either leave it as their default, which then it would always be what the SSD, the original one, or if they have different ones and they select that direct deposit with new, I just had that as an example, and they save that. Now when they go to payroll, and I have a payroll started or an old one here. I don't think it works with the old one, but let me check. Yes, it automatically comes up. So now they don't have to remember to select that direct deposit form here. So whatever they're going to email is what's going to, in this form, is automatic default until they change it, or they can change it if they want to use a different one for a time being, if they have a special pay and they want a different form or something. Again, they can change that here, but it always will default back to what that form is in the configuration. So now they don't have to remember to change that to the one form that they want. Okay. The next one is the pay periods. This was something that was asked during payroll when they're initializing their payroll. They want to be able to save this pay plan. And so every time they go in to initialize a new payroll, it's always going to be biweekly. Or if they selected semi, the next time they initialize the payroll, it's always going to be semi-monthly. So they don't have to remember to select that. So when I go in and it's selected biweekly, as you can see. So it's whatever they selected the last time they selected one, it's always going to be that one for now. So if they do have special pays and they pay like a monthly stipend or something, they will have to remember to change that then to make sure that it's the monthly if they need to change it. But otherwise, it's always going to default to what they had prior and then going on in the future. Okay. All right. And the next ones would be on our bugs. The S-Series Advance. We found a bug that a district was running S-Series Advance and it was not pulling in the attendance days for an employee. And what we found was it was not using this employee had payroll item position level, like a 451 and a 590 number one for a job level. And it was not looking at those attendance anymore because they had a stop date on it. So now they fixed that. So now when they run the fiscal year advance for your 7/1 to 6/30, it will look at any of those payroll items position levels with a stop date in between those dates. So, and if they will still include those attendance days and count them on the SRS advance. So that was an improvement. And so next year they should not have that issue. Okay, the next one, there was a bug that came about when changing the password for employees in a district. It was preventing them. They could not change the password under the login page. So this was fixed, and now they should not have any problem when they go in and try to change a password for a user. They can go here into the user and change the password. So that has been fixed also. Okay. And the only other thing, we had quite a few patches that was internal behind the scenes. So I won't go over those. Really nothing different to see on that end. So really, again, not a whole lot of changes on the payroll side of things. So I will hand it over. If there is any questions on this, please let me know. If not, I will pass this on to Amanda.
Thanks, Andrea. Yep.
You're welcome. Okay, should be yours now.
Perfect. Let me get to sharing. Okay. Okay, let's see. Are you all seeing my the USAS releases page?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Sometimes it has like a little green line, but some things are showing on my other screen, so we just got to make sure. Well, happy Friday, everyone. I'm gonna go over USAS, and then we're gonna touch on a couple things from an inventory release that we had. So, we had quite a few releases in USAS this month. We had four regular releases and a couple hot fixes as well, and I haven't noted which things were on those. Um, some definitely interesting improvements. And hang on, let me just get myself, I have to move one more thing around here. Okay. Okay, so the first thing that I have on the list is we added the ability to mass disable or enable report bundles. I believe this is one of the things that had been a feedback request for a while, and the prioritization committee picked this one up and wanted to do it on the roadmap for this year. So what we've done is you'll see a new select all checkbox added to this grid. We'll hop in and take a look at exactly how this works. I know probably the context for using this, from what I recall that we've had requested is, if you do have a situation where a district might need to like reopen a prior period and reclose it, but they don't want all of their bundles to run. And some of them have a lot of custom bundles. So this would help to be able to select all at once instead of having to go through and individually click each one to, disable to re-enable. So let's take a look here. It's going to be under the report bundles grid. And what we're looking at here is this very first column has this checkbox. Now, I just want to point out the difference here because the first row, the first column is going to be the selection box. Now you have the check marks that are still in this last box, and this, just as it did before, signifies is the report bundle enabled. So based on this last column with the check boxes, I can see, okay, board bundle quarterly is enabled. The SSDT bundles are enabled. And any of those that are checked, it's always going to be based on this actual checkbox. What we can do with this first box is if I select this, then I have these options at the top of the grid. And so just by selecting this first box, that doesn't do anything, but it lets us be able to mass change these checkboxes. So for example, if I just were to leave everything checked, I could go ahead and click enable at the top up here, and it's going to update, and now everything that I had selected is now enabled. Similarly, I can select all, disable, and it will go ahead and uncheck that last column so everything is disabled. Now, I can do, if I wanted to come in here and, just have some of these selected, I can do that. Oh, I have to check that. Looks like I checked those. Okay. Anyways, I will double check on that, but that's the basics for how this works. So if we go ahead, disable, and then want to just select certain ones over here, we could do that. So I can go through and check these. But that makes it much easier, instead of just having this last column, it is an option to mass select. It just goes by, you gotta pay attention to those buttons at the top of the grid too. Okay. So then let's see. Next we have, okay, so the other thing that we did this month is we made some updates to AR. We had some things that had been out there requested for a bit, and the team had some time to be able to pick up and update some of these things on the AR accounts receivable functionality. So, previously for accounts receivable, there was in the configuration, there was a setup for the email template. And what we've done is we've moved email templates to its own option on this accounts receivable grid or menu rather. And the previous default template gets moved over here for districts that were already using AR. But what we can have now is we could have multiple different email templates to choose from. So I could come in here, click create, new template, and then this could have a certain like from address, like that would be your from email address, who you want the email to send from. Um, and then the CC, the subject, and the body. And so the information that can be in here can be unique for each template. And pretty much this is like perhaps there are some bills that you would want to have, you know, a certain message or subject line depending on what that bill is for or who that bill is to. And, you know, that's something maybe that gets used like every, you know, so often. And so when you are sending the email for a specific kind of billing, you might want to have a different template than like your standard. And so you could come in here and set up um, a template. So let's go look at real quick. So I have these templates. I guess the last thing I should mention too is you also can pick if you want the billing form to be either the default or if you have like a custom billing form to use, and you can select that. And then whichever one is checked with the default template check mark, that's the one that'll show by default. And when I say show by default, let me show you where. So, okay, so if we come to our billing grid and then we were to come in here and set to email, this is going to pick up, and the first row here is template. So this selected my default template because that's the one that was check marked as default. But I do have my drop down here, and these are the other templates that I had in my template grid. So I could choose whichever one is applicable, and then see it changes the information here as far as what it would send, what form it's going to use for this billing, for emailing this billing. Now, the other thing here, so the to address, if you notice, the to address, of course, is not in the template because that is coming from your AR customer. And so we do also have on the customers, you can add email addresses. You can add multiple email addresses on customers, on AR customers now, if you were to enter in this email address field, separated by commas, um, or or semicolons, I believe. Um, but the vendor customers you cannot yet. We did have a question on that, and so any of the vendor customers, those still abide by like the vendor email address specification. So we have been discussing that internally, and we have another JIRA issue that may be able to help with that as well. Um, the other thing, and I linked this one, I linked this to the recap page just because I did want to give you all a heads up in case you get questions on it. When you are emailing these, so again, this to field is coming from the customer. If you were to type and add like another email address in here, it isn't going to recognize that right now. So you cannot manually enter at this point an additional email address in this pop-up. That is something that we intend to fix. We have a bug issue for that to fix that because it should work. But just, you know, if you have districts that are trying to do that and wondering why, it's because it's not currently working. So, um, and so I linked that here. Let's see. We had yeah, ability to set a default template is available. We saw that. Only one template can be the default at a time because that's whichever one's going to show in that first field automatically. And then, so the AR billing email configuration that used to be under the system configuration, that will no longer show. That gets moved to that new page that we looked at. And then we had this was sort of a follow-up issue that came out a couple of releases later, but we actually increased the space of like how many characters you could have in the body of that email template to 3,000. So we expanded that. So that's the AR updates. Oops, a little bit too far. Okay. So the next thing on my list is OpenID Connect integration. This one, Andrea mentioned it was on the USPS side too. I think it was in all softwares. Um, but this has to do with Mini Orange security integration. It is still a work in progress feature. It's only available to those that are hosted by MC right now, but we are still working on more in the near future for self-hosted ITCs to be able to work with this. All right. Okay, this next one, I'm happy for the timing on this because I think we definitely need to talk through this one. We've already gotten some questions about changes to the 5-year forecast, now the budget and 3-year. For the updates there. I know that ODEW has been communicating some information out, and districts are starting to have some questions about this. So this is updated in the software. It came out on August 29th, so last Friday. And what they can expect to see. So first of all, the 5-year forecast option in USAS has been renamed to financial forecast. So it's still under the periodic menu, the same spot, financial forecast. We we were having talks about, because of the timeline of where these updates like how when they needed to be in there for the submission. We've been having, talks while some of this is getting figured out as well. So we decided to go with financial forecast because that still describes what this is. And then that way it can stay more consistent if there are changes in the future. But financial forecast it is. And once we click to get to this page, it's going to look pretty much the same as it did before. As far as like viewing this extract page, we, obviously changed the header, but you still have, your different lines. You still have your amounts, your accounts available to view in this grid style. When we're talking format type, so the first format type is CSV. And if I let me generate this one real quick. So the CSV file, here, let's switch back while that generates. Um, Here, the CSV is unchanged. So this format, it only includes data. So because in USAS, it's only part of the equation for the forecast, right? We have anything that's been actually expended. We have for the current year, we have the projections as far as anything that they've budgeted or put in the anticipated revenue. But as then they have the future years that they would enter their estimates for. So the CSV file, and sorry, I didn't realize this was would be quite so long here. I have one I can show. Um, So basically, the CSV version includes the last 3 years and the current year. So that is all still valid. As far as what was being included in the prior years, that didn't change. So therefore, this CSV did not change. So see line number, previous years, average change, and the current year. And so running this version, you won't see any difference. Now, this version specifically, see, it's only the CSV, it's only this one, it's basically like a data output sheet from what's in the software. So this version itself, the CSV, is probably what's used, like maybe if they, move over, put this in like a third-party application or drop this in a spreadsheet that they've formatted. This is kind of just a data sheet. So no changes there. But here, and let me just switch back to this real quick. If we were to generate the Excel file, generate that, that's where it outputs our full sheet. And this one I just have, you just saw it here because I already have this one pulled up and zoomed in so that we don't have to, do the generation step. We can just um, take a look at it here. Now, the first thing that is really important to remember about this one is it has all of these different tabs at the bottom here. Now, we went through this and updated as far as what the current need is, and so there are have been updates to pretty much all of these tabs. The first thing, and I would say definitely take a look at this. This again is in here when it's generated, so you may want to refer your districts to this. But we did update these instructions. And it goes through here. It links to our resources, to the wiki and to the EMIS manual. But one thing here is it goes through and tells you what each of these sheets are for. So instructions is what we're currently viewing. This has information on the process. Extras, this is the same. This part didn't really change for the extras. Talks about how that has like the charts and a summary view. But sorry. But forecast. So forecast is where the financial forecast data pulls into. Parameters, and we'll take a look at each of these. Parameters is global parameters, things like the district name, the IRN, the fiscal year. The data tab is the source data from USAS at the time the Excel extract was generated. So that looks just like the CSV file. That's basically just the USAS data. And here's the big one is output. So output, this last tab here, this is new. This did not exist before in this spreadsheet, in this Excel extract. So that's the new one. And what the output does is it's going to compile because the data pulls over into the forecast. And then, so here, let me talk through this. So the data looks like the CSV. And then that data is used to begin populating this forecast sheet. So this one looks familiar. This one's similar to what it used to be. Now, as they populate their forecasted figures here, what's going to happen is all the information in this sheet is then going to be used to populate the output. And so if you see, here's the 1,000 that I had entered in here. And so by the time they're done, all of this will be populated, right? Now, this output sheet is what they would need to then save as a CSV for the data collector. So that is one of the changes is they are asking for, with the data collector, it's now accepting the data as a CSV instead of a flat file. So no longer will you have to, save the forecast view and put it through the flat file editor. That is obsolete. They won't be using that anymore, or you at the ITC, whoever, does that part of the process, no longer needs to use the flat file editor for this. Instead, you flip over to this output page, and then you would do a file save as and save it as a CSV file. And then my understanding is that would go, in the same, there's, an upload spot in the data collector that would be uploaded to, and then it would be able to pull the information from there. We've formatted this so that it has the proper columns and everything that's to the ODW specifications for the formatting. A couple of things here. So, all of this information comes from the forecast sheet. The IRN is in here. So let's look at where is oh yeah, it was parameters. Okay. So parameters, again, simple sheet here, and this would have like the name of the school, this would have the IRN, the county, the fiscal year. So this is all pulling from USAS as well when this extract is generated. But we had to add the IRN so that it could be in that output. So that was a change with this sheet. Um, let's see. So again, this instruction sheet, it does have some more information here. Um, as far as like, so here it talks about, the output sheet, save as the type. Um, so that is included in there. And oops, let's go back here. Let me just make sure we hit on everything. Oh, so there were some other changes. That's what I wanted to mention. I knew I was thinking of something. So, of course, the other big thing is that it's no longer 5-year forecast, right? So we did update these columns. So they wanted the current year plus 3 years. So now that is what is included on these sheets. And I know I'm zoomed in here, but there's no additional. So each one of these like data views, sorry, each one of these data views accommodates for that. We do have, I believe there were some additional changes requested as far as like the headers here. So we have another update in the future where we're going to sort of update those. However, those are not included in the output, so that will not hold anybody up from submitting their forecast if they're ready to do so. But we just have a couple more things that we want to change as far as headers. This also right here, 1.050, this description also did change. So, so we went through and updated all of those things in the sheet as well, just to make them consistent with the changes that they made at DEW.
Hey, Amanda,
Yes,
can I ask a quick question?
sure.
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Mhm.
The way that I understood it from a different meeting was that if a district uses SSDT's 5-year forecast spreadsheet, we no longer need to use the FFE. But
Correct.
if they use Forecast 5 or K-12 forecasting or some other third party to generate their forecast, then we will still need to use the flat file editor.
I do not believe that's correct for the second part. So the flat file editor is basically taking that data and it's putting it into a flat file, which is like a TXT or like a SEQ type file. My understanding is that the data collector is accepting these as CSV format.
Okay.
So that's why we've updated to have this tab that you can save as CSV. My assumption would be that other softwares, if they use like Forecast 5 or something like, they would have a similar output to be able to say, or they should, to save it as CSV. I don't think that putting it through the flat file editor would do anything for them. So as far
Okay.
as I'm aware, that's not to be used at all.
Okay. I may have very well misunderstood that. That was on
Yeah.
like, the prioritization working group meeting, I think. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and we have our ducks in a row here.
Gotcha.
So, okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Amanda.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my understanding. So, and I know too, you guys are working with, everyone does their file different places. The other thing too, like I know that not everybody does the Excel extract out of our software. I do have a link here to the EMIS manual that has this is where we took those specifications. So this is, exactly the layout that we did. Now, honestly, this still shows like filler and stuff that would be would be consistent with like a flat file. So, yeah, I would say possibly reaching out to DEW regarding that. But yeah, yeah, my understanding is that it should be a CSV. So
Okay,
that would be
awesome.
something good to be checking.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Um, okay, so yeah, I think I've covered everything here. For the 5-year forecast. Do we have any other questions? I know this is a hot topic right now, so if you want to put any questions in the chat or if anyone else wants to speak up, I will give you a minute here. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, still feel free, if you have questions to chime back in, but I'll go ahead and move on. Is The next couple of things that we have, we updated the destination for audit bundles to send to the management council server like inventory does. So we had set up the auditor bundles in inventory because they hadn't previously been in there. And so when we did that, basically MC had a server where they set it up so we can send the data files there, and then AOS can access them from there. So the auditors can access from this server instead of it sending directly to their server. And so they said, we like that. Can we have the other ones there as well? So we updated USAS as well to send to that same spot. As far as processing, this doesn't change anything with how you all have to do it. It would just now send to the new one. So we also updated the anonymizer to clear out the title field on user, anonymize custom roles, drop AR tables. These are things that the team has been working on. A couple additional things that had been spotted on the USAS side. Where we are right now, we are still reviewing, working on everything for the anonymizer. We're coordinating with MC as well to make this available. So at this point, it's still something we're working on, but we do hope to have those available in the future for you all to be able to use anonymized instances. Oh, okay. Jen, you think it's on the radar, but an immediate option would be helpful for the USAS, USPS audit jobs. I feel like we might have a feedback issue for that, but I will check. Okay, well, we can double check and see if we have a feedback issue to make note on. Yeah, no problem. Um, all right, so then I also have some bugs in this section, and some of these are things we can look at. The first one is we had quite a few requests, if I remember correctly, on this one to correct the financial summary by fund report when you use the all amount zero option. And what was happening, so this report is under the reports menu here, it's financial summary by fund. And so if we look at this report here, let me close out this. If we look at this report before I explain what all these means, if you look at this yellow highlight here, we have these cash balances on the bottom. And so what the problem that was happening here is that if you use this exclude zero amount accounts option, it wasn't picking up certain amounts that go into the cash balance. And so that's the main thing we wanted to correct here. So that's what this bug issue, excuse me, does correct is now when you use exclude zero amount accounts, it will exclude accounts where all amounts are zero. Now, just to be aware, in case you get questions on this, I wanted to include the explanation here. Some accounts may have amounts that don't appear on the report, like the initial cash. So it is possible that they can select this exclude zero amount accounts and still see where all the columns will appear as zero. Now, the reason that those are included is so that the totals at the bottom of the report calculate correctly. But just in case there's any question on it. So here's an example. So I ran this report and I excluded zero amounts. And if you see these green rows, here, let me just zoom in a little bit now that we're looking at a report. So I have a couple rows where all of the data on this report in the columns is zero. But because that is on there, that my cash balances are all balancing, which was like the most important part here of this fix. The receipts, those are all correct. But this report only shows, it shows appropriation, expended, encumbered, and the balance. Now, if I go look at one of these accounts on like a cash summary report, I can see that there's actually an initial cash amount. Now, there is no expended, there's no encumbered, so that's why it's not picking up something for these columns, but it's not truly zero because it does have initial cash on it. So that's why it's being included. So if you get any questions, I would say review a cash summary because the filter itself of like zero amounts is based on what you're seeing here, not just what you're seeing on the report. Next we have, so the two things that we had for the hot fixes. The first one, this was also Andrea mentioned, it happened in USAS and USPS. We corrected a bug to the change password view, so that was from like the login page. That was preventing password changes. I believe this was like the week of like August 20th, 25th, I think were the dates on these. So um, we had questions on it, and then we got the updates out as soon as we could to fix that. And then the second thing that we released a hotfix for was correcting a bug that we had with the user's created date. We had found that it was like being updated with the last login date. And this did include a patch to correct the created date for any user that was impacted. So it would set them back to their actual created date. And then we had, let's see, so we corrected the account change jobs to restart when the application is restarted. Um, so basically just, it wouldn't get like stuck if they had maybe started an account change and then like a update was applied and it restarted, and then that account change would just be um I think I know we had some situations where they would still be showing in progress, but basically this ensures, hey, if it gets interrupted, if the instance restarts, then it just will restart the account change so that it can continue to process. We also made an update to correct the validation of a date range. So for start stop dates on accounts, the date must be between these two dates. So between 1900 and 2100. So um, if they were to enter something outside of that range, they would get this error. So just a validation to help. Mostly, I think usually it's with like miskeys and someone has like an extra number in there. And then it looks like it's a higher year or something. So that would help with that. And then the other one that we have is we corrected account change to prevent processing when the account has a stop date in a prior fiscal year. And I believe this is specifically the to account. So if say like yeah, because account change is going to change all of the transactions for the current year. So even if it had a stop date in, say, like the previous month, you could still select that, but anything that's in a previous fiscal year, you wouldn't be able to select as the to account. We also had some patches and internal on the USAS side. So let me see. Um, So as far as these, yeah, I mean the patches were definitely for specific districts. I'm just trying to refresh my memory if there's anything I might need to mention to look out for. I know we had a couple that were related to basically like issues back to migration that we're still just cleaning up. And then these down here as well, a couple years ago, we had an account change bug that left some encumbrances odd. So, districts were reviewing those around the end of the fiscal year, and those are flagged to us, and we try and fit in patches, when we can to fix these things for specific districts. We've also been working on the REST API for vendors and requisitions. That is something you don't see a change in the UI for, but the team's been working on those in the background for a while. Okay. All right, so that is all I have for USAS. And then for inventory, there was just one release. Um, so as far as improvements for inventory, we improved the login form to be consistent with the other applications. So that's something we kind of been, updating on all the applications as we go. And then the rest of these we really focused on bug fixes. So we had two bug fixes for the fixed assets by source report. The first one, we corrected it to cope with future disposed of assets. This only came up in like a very specific situation where if they were running it for the previous year, but the next year had been open and had a disposition in it, we had some reports that this report was not being consistent with the other gap reports. And so upon digging, we discovered that a future disposed of asset was being included in the calculation. So we fixed this report so that no longer happens. Um, and then we also fixed it to cope with, so this says null functions and asset classes. So if it was like a blank function or asset class, it's able to still generate and able to handle those now. The acquisition original cost mismatch report, we did find this was including acquisitions that did not have the checkbox to update original cost. And so really the goal of this report is trying to see, okay, if we have acquisitions that should affect the original cost, and then we have the original cost amount, this is supposed to show if those don't match. Any that do not update the original cost are kind of irrelevant for this report. So we updated that so that actually gives an accurate picture of those things. Again, this is a report that we added to help with um, sort of cleaning up. Like really this could only happen for items that came over from the classic software. So this isn't something that they always need to use, but it's a helpful tool and they do need to use it. Let's see. Okay, we have a question. Our treasurer is expected to submit the financial forecast now, since we, their ITC, no longer need to format their forecast and upload it in the data collector for them. Um, that's a good question, Olivia, and maybe if the other ITCs have like anything they want to share on their process. As far as it goes for us, like I don't know really what the expectation is. I think each ITC sort of works that out with their districts. So uh yeah, I think that's up to you. We don't have a certain expectation on our end. I'm not sure that DEW does. I think that it just kind of varies based on what the process is. So yeah, if anybody else has thoughts, please chime in. But as far as it goes for us, yeah, we don't yeah, that's what we're assuming, but we thought we'd ask. Maybe everyone will be doing moving forward. Yeah, I see the point though. I mean, really, it's less steps, right? So if they have that sheet already and they're able to just save the CSV, as long as yeah, so if you were uploading it in the data collector for them, I mean, maybe just talking through with your districts of like where they can upload that saves a step, doesn't have the data going back and forth. They already have the sheet. I could definitely see that being something that would work. Yeah, good question. Okay. We also made an update to the item grid export in CSV format. So we've made some updates related to this before. When you're exporting, especially CSV, it includes quotation marks to like especially if there's descriptions and stuff that may have commas in there. So we updated basically just how that exports to make sure that it's maintaining the data. And then let's see. So this was um just as far as anonymized databases, we made an update here. And then we reverted changes to an unintentional field rename for secondary tags. So that was fixed as well. So that all came out on August 28th for our inventory release. Let's see. Carol says they'll be sending an email to their users reminding them reporting period is open to submit and let them know that they will be loading the CSV formatted file. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes when there are changes like this too, with processes changing, with now we have but current +3, maybe it is something where it's a good time to sort of talk it through with your districts and make a change if you want. All right, Michelle, it's all you.
All
Thanks.
right.
Let me stop sharing here. Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to move this over a little. Make sure I have my chat window open in case you guys have questions. Okay, I think I'm good to go. Hopefully you guys can see the release recap page here. I'm going to talk about employee self-service this morning and the updates that have been made. We had 3 regular releases, no hot fixes, yay, for the month of August. And so I'm just going to go through some improvements, talk about the new feature, and a few of the bugs that we encountered, that you guys encountered in tickets that we have cleaned up. Okay, so just the new feature, this is just, I'm kind of piggybacking off of what Amanda and Andrea had discussed earlier, is the Open ID connection integration. So just to talk about that a little bit more, like they both said, it is a work in progress. The developers have been through what they call phase 1 of the integration. So that was complete in ESS and payroll, USAS. I believe that it's still being worked on in inventory and ITCM, so those haven't been updated yet. But for those that are hosting with the Management Council, they can begin integration with one of those 3 OpenID Connect providers. And they had shown you earlier, Amanda and Andrea had shown the mini orange option available. Also, Google and Okta are 2 other ones. But and like Andrea had showed you earlier too, there is now an option in there that you can click on the login page for the mini orange one, for example. And so that's how, you know, it's being authorized through there and integrating through mini orange. And I think what the intention is with this is that then, like through mini orange and through this OpenID Connect, eventually there'll be like a dashboard that will be displayed with all of the different SSDT applications that they can then select from and to sign into that application. And it should kind of serve as a single sign-on. But I think more work needs to be made with that. With phases 2 and 3. Those haven't been started yet. Probably be getting ITC feedback on those from what I understand. So there are no timelines on those that I'm aware of. And with that first phase 2, like I said, it is available for the hosted districts. We still need to write scripts for those that self-host. So that's something that the developers are working on, and they'll get those scripts out here as soon as they can. So that's kind of what's going on with the whole OpenID integration, along with those providers like Mini Orange, Google, and Okta that can be used with that. Okay. I do believe too, if you were all attending OEDSA, they are going to discuss a little bit more about the OpenID integration during that Friday session. I believe it's the last session Friday in the fiscal room. What is it called? It's the ARIA automation tools and auth options. Chad and Mark and Matt will be going over some of the options available in ARIA for the ITCs and talk about some of these other upcoming features that will be available. So that's what that session will cover, some of this on the OpenID connection. Okay, any questions about that before I move on to the improvements? Okay. So lots of improvements with timesheets for the month of August. We did have behind the scenes refactoring. So this isn't something that's visible on the UI, but the storing of the position and the employee data on the timesheet line items was refactored just to make things work better with that. So that's one of the improvements. I do want to show you some of the minor UI improvements, though, that took place with timesheets. And so this is the list of them, and I'm just going to go through them and demo each of these. So I'm going to go in and log into my employee self-service application. I've already logged in here. And the first one I want to talk about is, excuse me, the automatic period generator. So if I go down to the timesheet manager, that's underneath the timesheet manager option. And in here, if I just go in and view, I have one set up already. and view it. This one thing that we did improve is when you're not in edit mode, the closing time field has been something, and I probably don't have it in here because it's based on what I have set up here. I'm going to go ahead and just edit this quick and change it to like bi-weekly. Or maybe I'll change it to semi-monthly. Oh, that's right up here. The closing time's up here. And so what happens is when I go ahead and save this, or I just cancel out of that. When you're in edit mode, it was allowing this to be updated. And so we obviously changed that so that it's in a read-only mode. And if you go in and try to select 06, it's going to still retain the 01. So that was one improvement that we made. Another thing that we've done is if I'm going in and actually editing the automatic period generator, and selecting employees to be added in there, it's also going to allow positions to be added. So that's another improvement that we made. So those are the two improvements that we made with the automatic period generator. Another thing that we've done with timesheets is underneath the shift. And I go in and create a shift. It's now going to require that they enter in something in the hours and workday. We were coming into issues with a null pointer exception errors. And I think it's when they were trying to, I think that might have been an issue with the automatic period generator. And it was because of this, and the hours and day was blank. And so they will need to go in and enter in an hours and workday in here. So to remove, and so that will prevent those null pointer exception errors from occurring. So that's one improvement that was made underneath the timesheets. Okay, I'm getting a message here that you guys aren't seeing my screen. All right, is everyone having that same issue? You're not seeing my ESS screen?
I'm seeing it.
Okay, all right. Okay. So that might just be a specific issue there. All right. The next thing I want to talk about regarding timesheet improvements is when just viewing a timesheet, we improved the box a little bit. So I'm going to go in and just pull up a timesheet here. I'm going to pick on Susan's. And so what we've done is we've changed this dialog box so it's a little bit taller, so allowing more rows to be seen at once. I know people were scrolling down if they had, 2 weeks worth of line items in here. So we've made this dialog box taller so you can see more at simultaneously. And also the add and remove buttons down here at the bottom, we've put them in a more stable spot in this footer, so that if you do go in and change the screen size and stuff, those will still stay put and still be visible. So those were some of the improvements that we did there. Also, I can't show you this, but on the mobile view on your phone, we made some improvements there as well. And I think it has to do, when you're going in and trying to create a timesheet and you're picking your position and your period and stuff, it wasn't displaying nicely on the mobile app. So we've corrected some of that. So that's a bit more user-friendly now when you're trying to create your timesheets on your phone. Okay. I think those were all the timesheet updates that we made here. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I think that's it. We have a couple other things that are kind of related to timesheets, and that's under users. And it would be under the matched employees option in the group chains here. So this is the matched positions option. So what we've done is we've kind of improved the filtering so that it's showing the correct matched employees and not others that aren't involved in that group chain. So for example, if I go into the timesheet area here and I go and look at the cooks one I have here, I'm going to view that. One area that we improved is underneath the select specific employee and position here. What was happening is, so for this example, I have selected certain people to be included in here that should be in that matched positions. And I've got Mary Bell with her one cook position, and then Susan Dean with all of her positions here. So when the matched employees, when I click on this, it should show all of the positions that are included in the matched employees. So it should include Mary and all of Susan's. And we did the same thing with the specific timesheet options, appointment type and daily hourly. So again, if these get changed and the appointment type, I'm going to go ahead and click on edit here. And if, it switches from certified to classified, same thing with daily and hourly. We just ensured that the matched employees are reporting the correct matched employees for those. So that was a slight improvement we did in this timesheets group chain with the matched employees. Also, another thing that we've done here is the extract file, the timesheet extract file. So this is something that Andrea touched upon earlier in regards to the overtime. And so she had shown you in USPS where that rounding configuration is, and that it's now, talking to ESS, which is correct. So I'm just going to go back in there quick and just kind of show you again what she was talking about. So underneath system configuration, they have that rounding configuration here, which mine shows 2 decimals under this unit amount decimal position. And so with that then, in ESS, we also have added a new option underneath system and underneath configuration. And we have a USPS rounding configuration. So when I'm viewing this, I'm just going to click on edit so you can see the dialog box here. It says that I can't go in and actually edit this. What I need to do is sync this rounding configuration with the rounding configuration that's in USPS. And it tells you that right here. This rounding configuration can only be set in a USPS instance, which is what we were just in. Please change it in USPS and then sync to USPS. So if this was 3, and I just showed you in my USPS instance that the rounding was 2 decimals, then all I need to do is click on sync to USPS. It'll update this and it'll reflect 2. So that takes care of that part. And then what we did then is on the actual timesheet extract, I'm going to show you where that's at. I have like a spreadsheet already created. So obviously when you go into timesheets and you do the timesheet export and you export the timesheets out for those that have overtime, once that spreadsheet is created, I'm going to bring that up. It's going to reflect the overtime rate correctly on the spreadsheet. It wasn't using a 1.5 of the regular rate on the overtime item lines. So just to kind of back up a little, below here is Susan's timesheet that includes the overtime. And so it says that she had overtime from 3 to 5:07. So it calculated the hours worked, rounding 2.13. And then what happens then is when this timesheet then is exported out, this is what it looks like for her. And you'll notice here that on her OT line, which is this one right here, it's showing an overtime rate of 27.89. So if you took 18.59 times 1.5, here's my hourly overtime rate. And so USPS is expecting this in the attendance absence import. So it wasn't doing that correctly, and you would have to go in and edit the spreadsheet. So we now improve that. so that this is reflecting correctly now. So when it gets uploaded in, it's doing the right calculation for overtime. Any questions on that? Okay. So I'm going to go back to the release recap here. So I covered all of the timesheet improvements here. Some of the other improvements that we've done is we have removed some read-only entities in the audits report. If you aren't real familiar with the audits report, we had a lot of different report objects in there that really weren't necessary. They were kind of read-only objects that just kind of cluttered up the list. So I'm going to go into our audits report here. And underneath the revision object type, we cleaned up quite a few that you really can't run an audits report on. So it cleaned up this list considerably. So that was one improvement that we made. Another thing that we've done underneath our monitor option here, and this is recently added option. We just did this a few releases ago, very similar to the monitor option in our other applications. But in here, what we did is we improved, I believe, the metrics, yes, and the environment grids to have a filter row so that you can filter on that. And this one as well. I think we brought up at the Sprint meeting the other day about adding filter rows to, I believe, the logger one too. And they're like, yeah, hey, we should probably do that as well. So that's probably going to be a future enhancement. But the filter rows are on here underneath metrics and environment. One other thing too, with the loggers one, we kind of made this work similar to the way it does in like the other applications. You can go in and change the level of the logging. And I can think of one reason why we that's useful in the other applications. I think with USPS, when you're trying to debug EMIS errors, I think we have steps to turn on logging so that it shows all of that information. So, and then you can turn it off after you're done. Same thing here. So you can change the logging level to debug, and then you can turn it off. Or if you restart the application entirely, if it gets restarted for some reason, it will change it back to the default levels here. So that's a new improvement that we made there. Going back here. The last three improvements I want to talk about, syncing employee name on a user when the position sync takes place. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to log out of my admin account and I'm going to log in as Susan. So in here, if let's say they go in and she goes in and creates a data change request, changing last name. And so it gets posted to USPS and then the sync pulls it back in. One thing that we improved is we wanted to make sure that the employee profile, the first, middle, last name, and suffix, whatever is displayed here, is also displaying down here where, it shows her full name here, that those are consistent. So that's one improvement that we made. Another thing that we've done, I'm still in Susan's account here, is we provided a better representation of the user info on the leave request and timesheet audit trails. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So if I go to Susan's leave requests, and this is going forward, this doesn't change anything on old leave requests, but I just created a leave request this morning. And if we view it, and I go to the leave request approval trail, what you're going to see now is her username and then her full name. So, and it's going to show that in, when she created, whoever approved it. So this is Brenda's username and then her full name. So now that it's consistent, you'll see this in both the leave request approval trail and in the timesheet approval trail. So that's more consistent. And one other improvement, the last improvement we did, which I'm not going to show you, but we are sending leave request cancellation emails for a leave request that were fully approved. If they went in and canceled them, those emails will be sent to the sub coordinators. So just wanted to let you know that that was one other improvement that we did. So any questions about our improvements this last month? And that was my dog, in case you heard a big snort. So he's right next to me. All right, the last thing I want to talk about, I just want to talk about some of these bugs, not all of them, the ones that were basically reported in tickets from you guys. Some of the other ones listed here were just random bugs found during testing. This first one or second one here, fixing a bug that allows null values. And this had to do with timesheet split shift fields. It was causing the timesheets to no longer, or the time periods to no longer auto create. And so, and it was due to these split shift fields and having null values on there. So we fixed that so that doesn't happen anymore. Another one is we fixed a bug in the auto generator that would not allow a selection of the period closing day. So in there, they can use the use configuration value, whatever is set up in the configuration. It was showing blank and it wasn't pulling that option in. So we fixed that issue so that it does display that in there. And then the last one that was reported to us was a bug fix in the timesheet extract. It was extracting using the words daily and hourly. Well, payroll doesn't like that. They want it to be D and H. So we upgraded that and improved that. And the columns will now show as a D and H in the timesheet extract CSV. Okay, the rest of them are just, like I said, other random bugs that either the programmers or the support staff saw. Do you guys have any questions in regards to those? I'm going to look through here, make sure. Okay. All right. Well, I do know we also had a workflows update as well. We had a regular release and it had to do with requisition workflows. And so we provided the details in here, but if you need to see more information about the workflow release that was done, it was version 1.6.1. And no ITCM releases at this time. Okay, the last thing I want to discuss is what's coming up next. So I'm just going to switch over to our training page and not a lot going on with Fridays with Fiscal for the next couple months because we are going to be on the road. We are busy doing training sessions in September and October. So if all of you are attending AWEDSA, which I hope you are, it'd be great to see everyone. We will be doing several sessions there. And so, you know, go out to the AWEDSA website, take a look at all the sessions that are available. One other session we are partnering with Outer States Office. They're going to talk about USAS manual updates, and then we're going to do a session after them to talk about the USAS options that are helpful and when you're needing to create and make those changes to the account codes. So that's one that we're partnering with them. Like I said, Matt and Mark and Chad are going to go over some of the ARIA stuff that's available out there with SSDT applications. And also on Thursday night, I might as well just go to their website here. Under the agenda here, also, at the end of the day on Thursday, We are doing a session just for the ITC staff. And it's just basically a touch base session, talking about like some of our future projects, any questions you guys have regarding our current projects, any other questions you guys have. So that'll be kind of like after the conference, and it's going to start at 4 o'clock in the Gemini Ballroom. So that is an additional session that we're going to have. But yeah, we're doing a Ippy Dippy intro, and SIRS is coming to do an update. And like I said, AOS will be there. And here's our session that we're partnering with them after lunch. And then SWOCA, they're going to be doing a session on EMIS and staff advice. And then on Friday, we're going to cover tips and tricks in ESS, USPS, Medicare, and retirement. And like I said, that last session, where Chad and Mark and Matt are going to cover some of the ARIA stuff and authentication options. So that's what's going on there. And also, just going back to our training, you'll see here that, we also will be going and conducting our SSDT direct sessions in October. And so it's this one right here, October 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. We put the notice out there in our last newsletter, and we're really hoping that people are going to be signing up for these. We have one in Piketon, meta location in Piketon, another meta location in Dayton, and then the other one will be SWOCA. So those are the 3 locations. So please pass on that information to your districts. If they're close to those locations, not too far away, come see us there. We're going to be covering USAS and payroll topics. And just to back up here, at SupportCon, Amanda and Lori are going to be at the SupportCon doing the Learning Lab sessions again this year. OASBO was really gracious and allowed us to have 2 separate rooms. So they'll be happening at the same time, but we'll be covering USPS, Learning Lab topics in one room, and then USAS in the other room. So it gives them a good almost 2 hours each to cover any Learning Lab topics that attendees would like to see covered. So yeah, that's what's going on. So outside of that, the only thing we're really doing on Friday webinars is just our recap sessions, just because we are out and about the next couple months. You guys have any questions regarding that? Okay, if not, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and we'll hopefully see you guys soon here at OETSA. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, SSDT.